How y'all doing today? Doing good? Doing great. Blessed. Can't complain.
A couple of days after the Giants preseason game for the Texans and a few days before the Rams are in town for joint practices, a few things still sticking out about that first team action from Saturday's game against the Giants. D'Amico Ryans wants to calm everybody down about the rushing attack, but I'm noticing something in the way that Ryans talked about the rushing attack from Saturday. And a few teammates have some very interesting and special things to say about Derek Stingley and CJ Stroud. You'll hear it all right here. Let's start with that rushing attack. We broke down the highlights on YouTube here, and you can see that in the video linked in the description down below. It did not look good for Damien Pierce and the rushing attack when the first team was out there on Saturday. Just 4 rushes for Damien Pierce for a total of 5 yards in that. And it didn't all look like it was Damien Pierce's fault. It didn't all look like it was the offensive line's fault. And D'Amico Ryans at the podium on Monday explained, hey, let's not judge an entire rushing attack or a whole situation for a team off of just a handful of rushing plays. But I think there's a bigger message there. Listen to the head coach.
Outside zone play that we mistargeted a guy. We missed a guy, so a guy was free in the hole on one. And then another probably, missed a run where we could have been downhill. But, overall, I think just with our O-line, our tight ends, and how it's hard to judge off a couple runs. I think we threw the ball a lot with our first team, so there weren't really many runs to judge, and I don't want to, judge our team off of 2 runs. That's unfair to, make a a judgment off of 2 runs.
Ryans describes a couple of plays that didn't quite go right. There was one play where it looked like the blocking scheme just didn't account for the amount of blockers that were headed over there. And a couple of times you could parse and say maybe Damien Pierce should have done this or done that with the ball in his hands. And Nico Ryans is setting a very clear tone. Look, you can't judge an entire rushing attack off of 4 carries. The passing attack looked fantastic in that matchup, but they didn't try to run the football as much, and when they did run the football, it wasn't successful. The biggest message coming out of that I would put to people is if ultimately Damien Pierce doesn't end up on this team, or if he does end up on this team, it's going to be the whole body of work for Damien Pierce that's going to put him on the team or keep him off the team. It's going to be how he performed in all of the training camp practices, the joint practice, and the preseason games. It's not just, hey, it hasn't looked good in the preseason games, get this guy off the roster. That's not how you operate in the preseason. But there haven't been a ton of moments in the practices where it feels like, oh my goodness, Damien Pierce is nailing it. Damien Pierce is doing exactly what he needs to be doing on the ground with the ball in his hands. And practice is a little bit tougher because you don't play as many of the starters or the regulars. It's game plan to make things difficult sometimes. And the defense a lot of times knows what you're getting ready to do. But the totality of Damien Pierce's work in the preseason is going to decide if he's on this team and where he ends up on the depth chart, if he's on this team or if he's off this team, if he ends up perhaps as a player that gets traded or ultimately a player that just gets released. That's going to happen sometimes. Players aren't going to fit teams. Players aren't going to bounce back after that first season of disappointment. It happens in the NFL all the time. There are lots of running backs that have one season of excellent football under their belts and then they're never really good ever again. Probably one of the best examples of that in Texans history, Steve Slayton. He had one excellent season of football. A few years later, he was out of football, actually became a very good chef from what I understand, but it happens in the NFL sometimes. The scheme has not fit Damien Pierce. He has not had success in it. So if he needs to end up on another team or the Texans need to move on from him, then that's what they need to do for the 2024 season, regardless of what happened in 2022 when Pierce was one of the most exciting pieces of a really crappy season of Texans football. But the coach's comments makes me pay close attention to the totality of the body of work for Damien Pierce. We may get a indication of Damien Pierce's status with the team when the preseason game rolls around. If he plays a whole heck of a lot in that final preseason game without a bunch of other players that we would consider starters, that might be bad signs for Dameon Pierce. It might be a showcase to see if there's one team that wants to make sure they get Dameon Pierce before he's exposed to the waiver system. And Nick Caserio could be working those phones. I don't know exactly what the value is. It might be as simple as add a 7th to Dameon Pierce and get a 6th back or something like that. There's not some sort of tremendous amount of value to a guy who can't click in portions of the system that a lot of teams in the NFL run. But there are teams, particularly a team right up 45 that plays in the Dallas area, that could probably use Dameon Pierce. So I will be intrigued in the next week plus to see exactly where and how Dameon Pierce fits into the Texans' future, if he fits in at all. A minute here for my friends at PrizePicks. Do you want $50 on the house to play daily fantasy? Well, my friends at PrizePicks have that offer for you. Use my code STOOTS, STOOTS, when you sign up for PrizePicks. You play your first 5, you're going to get 50 in bonus. How about that? Play $5, get $50 with my code STOOTS, STOOTS, or the link in the description down below. How much better is it than that? PrizePicks, man, it is so easy. In 60 seconds, you can put an entry together across a number of sports. Baseball, basketball season's right around the corner. The WNBA is going right now, and of course, it's football season. From daily or season long, you put an entry together, predicting more or less on given stats. It's so easy. Sometimes you can even 100 times your entry. How would $10 into $1,000 sound? It's possible with PrizePicks, and you're going to get a free 50. Play your first $5 and get $50 with my code STOOTS, STOOTS, with a link in the description down below. Visit my friends PrizePicks. Nobody better when it comes to daily fantasy. One player that has a very, very bright future ahead of him is Derek Stingley. Stingley was incredible in the few snaps that we saw him in the preseason game. He's been one of the most consistent and maybe the best player in training camp for the Houston Texans. It's between him and Stefon Diggs for consistently best player when it comes to training camp performances. And Stingley, I mean, there's so many things to like about him. Look, the question has never been, can he play? The question has always been, will he be available to play? But when he is playing, a frequent foe of his from training camp, Nico explains what makes Derek Stingley so darn special.
Sting, he cold. You know, he's that corner man. He's strong, physical, you know, and he's patient. You know, he's good with his eyes, great ball skills, you know, and I feel like he never panics. You know, I feel like a lot of corners know when the ball in the air, and a lot of DBs and they panic. You know, not turning head, look, stuff like that. But I feel like with him, man, he's calm. You know, when the ball in the air, he make a play. You know, but Sting, dude, special, man. Him, Kamari. Man, our whole secondary, like, we got some corners, man. We got some our DBs, man. We go to war every day, you know. So we go out there to practice line up, man. It ain't gonna be easy, you know. So win my rep, lose his rep, I lose the rep, he win the rep. You know, it's like that. I feel like that's the only way we get each other better. You know, I feel like that's what we're doing right now.
I love Nico Collins' comment about Stingley doesn't get scared when the ball is in the air. He's got confidence. And I think if Derek Stingley, you hear the old thing about they play cornerback because they can't catch the football. I think Derek Stingley, if he had to, go out there and be a slot wide receiver, go out there and take care of a few routes and be on offense if he had to. I mean, he's been fantastic. And again, the question is not, is Stingley any good? He's fantastic. He's excellent. The question is, will he stay healthy for an entire season? If Derek Stingley is healthy, you're getting an all-pro year out of Derek Stingley. I truly do believe that. If he plays 17 games, he is going to be an all-pro at the cornerback spot, and that is going to tremendously increase the floor of what the Houston Texans can do on this defense. And because you can't hear enough nice things about a guy that may be set up to have the best football of his career in 2024, here's the rookie, Kamari Lassiter, on Derek Stingley and what makes Stingley so special at the position that Lassiter himself plays.
Second to none, honestly. I haven't seen a defensive back have as good as ball skills as he has. Like, it's just like a superpower of his. Like, he's just able to just snatch it up out the air. Like, you know, it's just something that you really can't teach. You can't coach. That's something that God blessed him with, and you know, he uses it all the time. And it's just crazy to watch. You know, I'm like, hey, that's Sting right there. I told him on the sideline, like, yeah, you that one for sure.
Great stuff from the rookie on the veteran. Maybe need to catch up with the veteran to see what he likes about the rookie's performance so far in training camp. Speaking of veterans on rookies, or maybe it's the second-year stud quarterback of the Houston Texans, Dalton Schultz and C.J. Stroud are going to connect a ton this year. When the wide receivers have drawn a bunch of that attention, you're going to see 86 running free and taking care of business like he did deep in the Texans' own territory on the goal line and got, 25 yards on that little pass up the middle. Great route, great find by C.J. Stroud. Pretty busy pocket right there, and still made a really nice throw to Dalton Schultz. But two things about Schultz on this team always stick out to me. C.J. Stroud talking about Dalton Schultz this past offseason, and Bobby Slowick a few weeks ago talking about Dalton Schultz. Slowick talked about how important it was to get Schultz back, and a lot of the stuff that they do on offense runs because Schultz takes care of his business. I asked Schultz about that, and he said, look, I'm just trying to be consistent. I'm trying to be there. I'm trying to be open when that attention gets drawn away from me. And Slowick mentioned that, hey, they are able to accomplish a lot on offense because they can trust Dalton Schultz. The trust factor sometimes doesn't even come in the form of communication, because C.J. Stroud and Dalton Schultz have had some moments where they haven't even been able to communicate, but they were on the exact same page. Stroud talked about that. There was a play in the Tampa game, and even in Cincinnati, just football instincts, the rookie and the veteran last year on the same page. And Schultz explains why something like that could happen so early in a quarterback's career and so early in a career with those two on the same team.
Early, just like he was a guy that I could tell pretty early from the conversations that like he knows ball, like he understands football from just a big picture scale. And so some of those things, it's like I didn't necessarily hear what he wanted, but like, you know, I knew he was trying to say something, and it's like we just found a way to be on the same page by just seeing the same picture on the back end. And so things like that kind of, some of them aren't necessarily like planned all the time, but like when you're able to just get on the same page and make it right, however it is, that's special when you have a quarterback that can do that.
Big time football IQs, taking care of each other on the field. I'm excited to see what 7 and 86 get up to this year. You saw how useful the tight ends can be when everybody's worried about what Stefon Diggs and Tank Dell and Nico Collins are doing. And oh, by the way, we haven't even seen Joe Mixon running and catching the ball out of the backfield just yet. So that's another fun wrinkle the teams are going to have to deal with in the regular season. What say you? Too early to judge the rushing attack, or did you pick up on the same thing that I said about D'Amico Ryans? Let me know in the comment section down below. Do you like the fearless nature of Derek Stingley? What'd you think of Kamari Lassiter's comments about him in Football IQ? Let me know in the comment section down below. On your way down there, throw me a thumbs up on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And don't forget to visit our friends at PrizePicks, the best and easiest way to play daily fantasy. Man, they do a great job. There's so many different things, from basketball, WNBA, baseball, and then, of course, football seasons here. You can get in on the season-long football opportunities as well. More or less on predicted stats for the season. The Texans numbers coming in pretty low. Might have to put one of those together on PrizePicks myself. You can get that fantastic offer at PrizePicks of $50 in bonus when you play your first $5. My code Stoots, STOOTS. The link in the description down below will take care of you as well. I appreciate you watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I can't wait until we talk Texans again soon.